I'd like to start off asking you guys a question I like to ask people on dates instead of asking people for their zodiac sign, because I feel like that can be really cringy. And I love asking this question because I feel like you can learn a lot about a person based off their answer, and that is, who is your Batman? The guy's been around like 80 years. I feel like we all have a Batman that's defined a part of our lives. So briefly tell us who your Batman is. And Rob, I'd love to start with you because I'm jealous of the kids coming up now that get to experience you as their first Batman.
You actually asked that on dates?
I do. Who's your Batman? I need to know.
Really unusual.
That's a legit question.
I need to know if it's Clooney. I need to know if it's.
Oh, right. I thought you meant like in my life.
I was thinking Maradona. I was going to go with Maradona. I was trying to figure out how I was going to make any sense.
I mean, I weirdly got to try on every single Batman outfit for my screen test to see actually which Batman I was.
Not Adam West.
Apart from Adam West.
Yeah, I was just making sure. That's a great visual.
Yeah.
That's a great laugh.
My head was the only person who had a large enough head for me to fit into the cowl was Clooney, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Everyone else, I did not realise that everyone else has quite small heads. And, but I didn't fit into the, so it's not really what you're asking. But like,
no, this is fascinating.
Kind of, but I got into so because you could judge it, the most important thing was the cowl. I could only fit into Clooney's cowl, but then his suit I could not fit into. And so I kind of had like a very vulnerable midsection, kind of groin area.
You're saying Clooney was tight in the groin?
No, it's just, I think he's a little bit...
Big in the head, tight in the groin.
I thought Clooney was really tall. Like, I mean...
That's what I would think, like 6'1" or something.
Yeah. And
Clooney hates you right now.
And that's the suit that has the nipples on it, right?
It does.
Yeah.
I swear a couple of them had nipples. I think one of them has like one nipple. But like...
Pierced.
Paul, who's your Batman?
This is my Batman.
Yeah, honestly.
No, you know, I remember being a kid and seeing the Tim Burton film, and when Bruce Wayne's parents get killed, like, it was awful to watch as a kid. It's like, I think it's every kid's fear, right? It's like losing their parents. So I love that film. So I guess Michael Keaton was my first Batman.
What about you, Jeffrey?
Oh, it's Adam West, 100%. Yeah, see, your question, I think, just dates your date. You're just going after the age. Yes, I think. Because, I mean, I was, like, 7, 8 years old, and it was after school, it was Batman. It was Speed Racer, Ultraman, little Gilligan's Island thrown in. But the Batman was Adam West, and I mean that was just. Matt and I talked about it a bit because, we look at it now and it's kind of camp and it's the pastels and all of that. But when you're a kid, that was serious. It was serious business. It was serious, heroism and it was cool. It was modern.
Yeah, I remember because it was replayed on English TV. I used to watch it all the time, and I never thought. I mean, I didn't really know what the difference was, but I thought it was a really serious show.
Yeah, and the performances are just. Cesar Romero and Eartha Kitt and Burgess Meredith and all. It was just brilliant stuff for a kid. So yeah, that was. I used to make a little bat cave on the sofa and kind of do my whole thing, and I was well into it. Wow. But Adam West. 100%.
I love
Tells
that.
you how old I am.
That show still holds up too. Zoe, who's yours?
Rob's my Batman.
It's gotta
my
be.
Batman.
Yeah.
Will you be my Batman? Sounds like Valentine.
Yes, say yes.
Oh yes.
Yeah, thanks.
And Colin, who was yours?
Two, Jeffrey's Adam West, and also Paul was saying Tim Burton. So I'll double dip. Yeah, when I was a child, pre-10, used to come home from school and watch Adam West in his version, and then, which wasn't camp at all. Of course it wasn't. It was life or death, and it was intriguing. And they circle each other every episode. The Riddler, Penguin, Joker, and Catwoman, and I watched it recently with my son, and it's extraordinary how often they all bump into each other in broad daylight. And so looking back in that way, it's kind of ridiculous, but it was wonderful at the time, and it's still really enjoyable. But then Tim Burton, when I was beginning to feel, I suppose, the recognition of certain anxieties and discomforts as a young man, like 13 or 14 or 15, then I related to the world that Tim Burton, Michael Keaton's Batman, and his kind of beautiful kind of awkwardness, which, even though he was awkward, of course he had a confidence. So it was kind of almost like, wow, you can be awkward in yourself and rub up against the world with awkwardness, and yet you can have an inner strength. That's an interesting concept to hold as a young man or a boy becoming a
Yeah,
man.
it's so beautifully said, and he means so much to us in like so many different ways, which is what I love. I think you were right about dating too, because mine was Kevin Conroy, Batman the Animated
Oh,
Series.
it's
I'm a
so- I was
'90s
gonna say,
kid, and
yeah.
that's the action figure I had. And Rob, I was actually watching an interview you did years ago where you said that you were looking at a Batman action figure and you couldn't wrap your head around the fact that you were Batman. So I wanted to know, when was the first moment you truly felt like Batman? Was it when you put on the suit, when you got in the car, first fight scene?
I mean, there's two different versions. There's one version where you kind of feel like Batman, and then there's another kind of realization where you realize you actually are playing him. And I think, like, even when I look at the poster in the back room here, I still can't really understand that it's even happening. Like, but there were definitely moments where you're kind of, you put on the suit. Actually, to be honest, it was on the camera test, and when we did, it was the first time I had the full suit on, and people start kind of behaving differently around you. It has such a kind of totemic power, and like the crew looked a little bit scared. I mean, there's something, it's really weird. If you don't say anything, you're just standing there, you're just kind of, people get freaked out by it. So yeah, probably on the camera test though.
Yeah, people are stoked on this suit, man. The way it catches light, the way it accentuates like your enviable jawline, and it feels like it has a lot of movability, which I think will lend itself to some really cool fights. I wanted to ask you about Bruce Wayne because Darwin Cook has a Batman comic called Batman Ego, which to me is just fascinating because he separates Batman and Bruce Wayne, and they have a conversation with each other about what it is they actually do, which I think is so interesting because it's in the same way where we all struggle with our own egos on a daily basis. So Rob, did you approach Bruce Wayne and Batman as two separate people?
Kind of. I mean, I love that comic, and there are quite a few of them when Bruce is kind of having a bit of an existential crisis, and even the way he becomes Batman. I mean, literally a bat smashes through the window, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna be a bat," and like, I mean, it's not really a normal kind of guy, and I got really obsessed with thinking that there's an element of like mysticism in it as well, and kind of how much power he kind of imbues into the suit. I mean, he really thinks when he puts on the suit, he's no longer Bruce. It's not, because there's in other tellings of the story, they kind of really successfully kind of rationalize why he's wearing the suit, and it's to scare superstitious criminals and stuff. And I think in this one, what I got from Ego and from quite a few other comics is he believes it. When he believes it, he puts on the suit, he disappears. And I thought it was interesting to kind of think that Bruce feels as himself impotent to help anybody and avenge his parents. He needs to completely embrace his alter ego. And so in our telling of the story, like, Bruce hasn't really got control of his persona as Bruce yet. Like, he's a recluse. Like, he's a recluse, and he's not the kind of playboy that we've seen in other tellings of the story. Like, he's a freak. I mean, he's not necessarily a freak. He just doesn't really go out that much.
He's also dressing up as a
He's
bat.
dressing with a bat, but he wants to be Batman the whole time, which is kind of, a lot of the comics are about that, where it's kind of, he thinks that Batman is his true self, but in this it kind of alludes to it a lot more than usual. I mean, he doesn't want to do anything else, and I thought it was quite interesting.
It is interesting.
Still struggling and hasn't quite made sense in the way that a lot of other tellings, there's like almost too much clarity in like why
Yeah.
I'm doing what I do. And I get from you and from the film that you think you maybe know why you're doing what you're doing, but actually you're too much in the
to be
thick of
revealed.
that struggle
Yeah.
that it will be revealed.
It's almost like, I mean, I could talk about all day whether or not Bruce Wayne is the actual mask here, but someone who understands Batman, I think, very intimately is Catwoman, played by you, Zoe. And this is an origin story for Selena, which I think is very exciting for all of us as fans. Who does Selena Kyle want to be? And like, what is it that she understands about Batman?
Who does she want to be? I mean, in this story, I don't really know if that's what she's thinking about. You know, I think she really wants to be free from her past, I think, in this story. You know, I think she's trying to liberate herself from a lot of trauma. and a lot of pain. And, you know, the Catwoman that we know and love, who's really able to relish and enjoy the chaos, she's not quite there yet, you know? So it's a really interesting place to meet her. And I think she really is struck by the connection she has with Batman, because I think both of them are people who never feel seen or connect to anybody. And I think it's a little scary to meet someone who affects you the way that we affect each other.
Yeah, there's definitely a vibe there.
There's definitely a vibe there.
Yeah,
Or I could have just said that.
Yeah.
I have a thing for strays. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
That was a last minute ad,
Oh,
too.
it was fantastic.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. It really, it's very romantic and heartfelt. You know.
I think you also see like a young woman like fighting for her life
Exactly.
in a messed up city.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I think that's good.
Yeah,
It
it's
I like that.
I
I like
think
seeing that.
refreshing to not romanticize the character too much, where she's, again, you know, just having a great time being mischievous. I think she really is a woman trying to survive, and that's something, you know, we don't see a lot in these films.
Yeah, Paul, I love that you brought that up too, because Zoe, I was reading an interview you did where you said Batman's like the masculine and Catwoman is like the feminine. And I don't want to speak for all women, but personally, sometimes I feel like we have to lead with our masculine so much, especially in the workplace. So I wanted to ask you, like, how did you get in touch with your feminine for this role? Because it's a very vulnerable place to be.
Yeah, that's a really good question. You know, I think it's interesting, like the idea of being in your power, right? And I think a lot of us associate power with masculinity, and so oftentimes, as a woman, when you want to feel powerful, I think we can imitate masculine power. And so I really wanted to allow myself to be soft and to take my time and to trust that she's a badass without having to lead with any kind of bravado.
Yeah. Oh, love it. I can't wait to see your Catwoman. Really, I can't wait to see all your characters because they're all unlike any of the versions we've seen in the previous live actions, especially Jim Gordon, Jeffrey. I think what makes me so stoked about this film is it's a detective story, and I feel like we've just all been craving that from Batman. And it feels like Gordon and Batman are like partners in this one. So what excited you about bringing this version of Jim Gordon to life, and how did that detective story and angle influence your portrayal of him?
Well, you know, it's very much a throwback in that way, the film. It's a throwback to, it's not an origin story of Batman, but in some ways it's kind of an origin story of the series, in that it begins in Detective Comics. It's about mysteries and crime solving, and he's the world's greatest detective, and so we really focus on that, and it gives Gordon an opportunity to really be in the middle of things. And you know, he's still Lieutenant Gordon, not Commissioner, so he's on the street. And so much of what I do is informed by what Rob does. So we're, you know, it's all, people ask, how is this different than it? It's different because we're working with Rob. You know, we're all working together and working within Matt's vision and James Chinlin's vision of Gotham and Greg Fraser's lighting. And all that's what's different about what I've done with this, you know, because I've said before, but you know, Gary Oldman is one of the most influential actors that's out there for me personally.
Wow.
And I saw Sid and Nancy, it just blew my head open to the possibility of what we were able to do in terms of freedom and intensity. And it just opened my head up. So I have massive respect for the actors who've come before and played this role. But what differentiates me from them is I get to work with these folks, you know.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about these folks and who makes up the Gotham criminal underworld. Paul, this is the first time Riddler is at the center of a Batman live-action movie in over 25 years.
Wow.
I'm sure fans are wondering, how good is he at Wordle? But I want to know, what drew you to the Riddler? Like, what did you read and see in the script where you were like, I want to play this guy?
Well, I was totally surprised and blown away by the script. And you know, this day and age, you have to ask why are we going to reinterpret, you know, the Batman, right? And right from the get-go of Matt's script, he had a really clear point of view of what he was bringing to this film. You could see the film as you read it, and something that I was really moved by was that he was exploring the two sides of trauma, maybe. And you know, the Batman is born of trauma, right? Bruce Wayne losing his parents, and some people are able to take that and use it as fuel. And sometimes that fuel can lead towards something potentially good. And I think sometimes people take that fuel and it takes them. I guess I was really interested also in The Mask and the idea that a vigilante in our world, you know, we can see what we often can see what we want to see. And even though to a lot of people the Batman stands for good, I can tell you that I as my character, saw him representing exactly what I wanted to, as a great source of inspiration and power. And so there was some awesome gray in the morality of Gotham and in the idea of good and bad. Just felt super complex and thrilling and deep, and I mean, I'm still so excited about it.
Oh, well, we're so excited to see it. But speaking of inspiration, Colin, let's talk about Penguin, because I was looking at a dossier of like all the roles you've had in your life, and they're just so fantastical. And when I think people think of Penguin, they think of like umbrellas and Danny DeVito. So how did you take this character and how did you conceive Penguin into your own version while still maintaining all the things that this character's like endured? And what was it like having that suit on? Like, how were you guys reacting to him, like with that suit?
No, it was fun. It was we had a day. I read the script first. I loved Matt's films, and I think he's an extraordinary filmmaker. And I think, however large a scale he may present his films in, there's always something incredibly immediate and personal at the core of his films. Which is a testament to just his true interests, not just as a painter and as a filmmaker and somebody who presents these really beautiful aesthetics through the medium of film, but somebody who really is concerned with the human condition, Matt, as a man and an artist. Yeah. So when I read the script, I found all those things that I had recognized in his previous work were alive and well and presented, of course, in a new way and in a new world, a world that's very familiar to us all as either comic book lovers or film lovers of Batman as a character, but was incredibly new and original. And so I was so gripped by the script, and I just wanted to be part of it. I didn't know what I could do with it until when I read Penguin. I was I found it hard to find out where he was and his trajectory as a man and his trajectory as a criminal, because I know the Penguin that I felt we found was very aspirational, had dreams about power and dreams about getting out from beneath the shadow of his own, what he perceived as his own disfigurement, and how he had been judged as well for looking maybe the way he looks and for being the way he is. So he very gingerly compensates, I don't even say overcompensates, but is compensated through the use of violence and his street smarts in a world that's been very hard for him to deal with. So all those things were there, having talked to Matt. And the one thing Matt always wanted to be aware of with this film, and I think it's really, really clear when you see it, is everything is grounded, everything is believable. Everything is practically reachable through your understanding as a human being, and physically as possible as well. But the makeup and the thing, yeah. So that was fun. That was fun. So I honestly, when I read the script, I was kind of like all the shit that I just said. But then I read the script, I also was going, I don't really know what to do with. And then Matt showed me Mike Marino's design for what the Penguin's visage was going to look like. And as soon as he showed me the design, I swear to God, Naz, the second he showed me the design, I got so, and the script is fantastic. It was my myopia, shortcoming as an actor, that I was struggling to see how I would find my way in with the 5 or 6 scenes that Penguin had. When I saw what Mike Marino created with the makeup, I just got so excited. And we had a makeup test out in Warner Brothers Studios one day, and there was 8 or 9 people there. You know, someone to do the teeth, someone to do the wig, someone to do the this, someone to do 4 people who were applying things. And it was so exciting, and we were all just on the same page. There was like 8, 9, 10 of us there, and we were all, and I'd done a bit of dialect work, so as soon as the makeup went on, the dialect came in a little bit, and it was just fun. It was just so much fun. It was such a and so many people. It didn't feel like my creation alone. Like I'm just part of a team that brought that stuff to life. You know, starting with Matt and his genesis of what he wrote on the page.
Wow. Well, after hearing that, I mean, we're so excited to see him in this.
It's fun.
And
it's
in the
freebie.
spin-off.
It was a freebie. I'm not even there. I'm not even there. Like if anyone wants to give me a bad review, I go, F yourself. It's not even me. That's why I said Mike Marino. He's like, no, give it to the makeup artist.
That's amazing.
If I'm
well,
good,
you said you
it's
were all on
me.
the same page, though. Everyone's on the same
Yeah.
page. That's amazing. The fact that we're even getting more from that character and from yours, Jeffrey, and also your laughs have just been killing me this whole interview. Can I say I love your laugh so much?
Oh, my laugh.
Yeah,
Right
it's
now.
the best. I love that we're just getting more in all these spin-off series. But speaking of more, I want to ask you a question, Rob, that I think everyone's going to be thinking when they walk out of the theater. How long do you want to play Batman?
Forever. Yeah, I mean, it was so fun doing it. I mean, I'm down to do it as many times as people want to see it, really. Like, I mean, I've got to get this one out first. But yeah, like, I mean, I've talked to Matt about the idea of doing a trilogy, and that would be wonderful. I mean, I really, really enjoyed the process, and it's such a fun character to play, and yeah, that'd be lovely. Lovely.
There's so much room for this Batman to grow too.
Yes.
This is really
Big time.
I think you
It
come away
needs
from
that.
this
This
film.
is what it's
Evan,
set up
we
in.
want to see the
Another
evolution
step.
of Bruce
Yeah.
Wayne in this big time.
He's a giant party boy.
No, I'm really that
It's
is
only-
something
he's not
I
even
think,
Batman.
but I think because you're such a recluse, Bruce is such a recluse in this film, to see Bruce evolve into the person that knows he has to perform and be on a yacht with some, like that's a really fun journey to go on. I really, no,
And
truly.
Alfred's like, you need to be Batman again. He's like, I'm at Fashion
I'm having a
Week.
mojito.
This is a big deal for you guys, and when we do things that are a big deal in life, there's the anticipation of it, then there's the doing it, and then there's the coming out on the other side of it, which is where you guys are now. But I feel like we're in this sweet spot right now where you guys are done filming, but you haven't shared it with the world yet. So I just want to capture right now, how are you feeling in this moment? And we'll
great
just go
question.
down the line. Thanks, Zoe.
Yeah.
Honestly, I was saying, I'm excited to see. I don't usually get. I'm a bit of a grump sometimes when it comes to films and stuff that I do, and I can easily kind of be disparaging, you know. But try not to. I'm really excited. I'm genuinely excited about this. I'm just excited to be a part of it, and I'm excited to have worked with these actors, and I'm excited to be in the world that Matt envisioned and that was creative production design and lit by Greg and all of it. I'm really excited to just be a part of it. Yeah, truly.
Yeah, it's a really special moment. You know, I think, you know, even if we continue to make these films, for the, you know, this moment will never happen again for the first film to come out. And there's something bittersweet about it because it's not ours anymore. You know, I think when you put art into the world, it stops being our little, you know, creation. And so, you know, it's the end of something and also the beginning of something, and it's really special.
Yeah, and I think after a kind of very difficult, strange period, to be a part of something which has this fan base that still has such an anticipation for it, they're very, very excited. You kind of really feed off it. Like, I mean, there's like, we're in a period where there's hardly any movies coming out in the cinema at the moment, and like to have this level of anticipation, it's lovely, and it kind of makes you, it gives you hope for cinema, it gives you hope for the movies that come afterwards, and yeah, it's a real privilege to be a part of it.
I got so excited seeing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
with the very different films and all that, whatever. But really excited. I got caught up in the global energy. That
Yeah.
was my awareness that people all around the world were going with their kids or their friends or their lovers or whatever,
It's an event.
and really having this experience.
A cultural
And
moment,
I have
yeah.
no expectations for how many people are going to like this, love it, not like it, have a gripe with it or any of that. But I do believe, and I was saying it to Matt when Matt finished the film, I sent him a text and I said, I hope, because Matt worked, I don't know
my
how the
God.
man is
Oh my
saying.
God.
I'm kind of worried about him. when this is-
I'm still worried
I
about
swear
him.
to God,
Still
I
worried
said you
about
need to
him.
go into a forest, cut down
Yeah.
some trees, and cry for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, you know, build
No,
a
no,
fire,
no.
eat some
Seriously.
chestnuts. Like,
Someone check on Matt
what was
Reeves.
my point? Oh yeah, I sent him a
Movies
text
in
saying,
cinema.
So
you know,
excited.
saying, I hope you can grasp that you're going to move and bring a lot of entertainment and joy into so many, like millions of people's lives. Even if it does badly, he's going to do that in millions of people's lives.
Well, I think the thing, though, particularly about this, you know, making this film, we made it over a long period of time, you know, in kind of, you know, in unusual circumstances, but circumstances that we've all around the world experienced. And there's also a sense now that we can't trust certain things. There's a sense of uncertainty and a sense of fluidity. But with these characters, these films, this story back in 80 years, characters that are known, loved, audiences, people yearn for them because they trust them. There's something that you can hold on to. Even the Riddler, I trust I know what the Riddler is going to be. I trust that he's going to be the Riddler. And I think there's something I've, as I kind of take in the passion that fans have for this, as you kind of sense it. And I think it's something around that. It's something that in a shifting world, at a shifting time, people can hold on to with both hands. And so, I'm pretty stoked that we can, finally give over to them what we've been churning out, over the year and a half or however long it was that we worked on it. But and finally just let it out there and hope people trust it.
And I hope people go to the theater. If you're able to go to the theater, this is a movie. You will have the rest of your life to watch it at home. But this film, this kind of film, is why big screens exist. So I really urge people to if they are able to go see this in the cinema, because it's an experience. And to be alive in this moment, to have the opportunity to see it on a screen that big is pretty special. It's really amazing.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Guys, tickets are on sale right now. I think I speak for everyone when I say congratulations and thank you, and let the countdown begin.
Cool.
Thank
Thanks,
you
guys.
guys.
Thank you.